I call this meeting to order. Kathy, would you like to do the roll
Sure.
call?
Janelle Allen,
Present.
Rich Bianculli,
Here.
Chris Carrier,
Here.
Wendy Newcomb,
Here.
Maggie Williams.
Okay, we'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And Chris?
I'm going to do my best to read a statement on behalf of the school committee, and I venture to guess on behalf of the school teachers, staff. Bear with me. These end of August days means teachers have been getting their classrooms ready. Everything is looking bright and shiny. All the pencils are sharp. And next week brings the best part, kids returning from summer vacation. Hopefully all of our kiddos return with stories of a summer well spent, with freckles and suntans, tales of catching monster fish, scraped knees and climbing trees, and spending time with those they love most. A new school year ahead is full of so much hope, so many dreams for all the possibilities of the year ahead. This time of year brings so many feelings of anticipation, yet I don't think we can jump fully into that magic of a brand new school year without taking a moment to acknowledge a tremendous loss within our community. David Gallen was our superintendent. It's still incredibly difficult not to see him sitting here with us, guiding us and leading us in his humble way. We are very much a community in mourning. David's presence is hard to convey in words, but he and other members of the school committee like to tease me for going on too long about topics that mean a lot to me. So David, you meant a lot to all of us, so go ahead and laugh. When David first became our superintendent, he reached out to talk, and honestly, I was unsure of what to expect. We ended up talking for hours about our time spent in classrooms, students we had both taught, a shared love of outdoor education, our dreams for our own children, and what it means to be a teacher and a school that makes a difference. We laughed, we really laughed. He was genuine, and it was obvious that he sincerely cared. By the end of that first conversation, I'm pretty sure we'd solved all the world's problems and also touched on the very important topics of good food and better music. I left that meeting with David with a distinct impression that he was a very special person, a rare kind of human in this world. During the 2 years that we knew him, that feeling only strengthened for myself, and I'd argue for everyone that met him. He was the kind of person we knew we could trust, and I believe we all knew Sebago Elementary was incredibly fortunate to have David as our superintendent. David loved his life and the people in it. Like Lou Gehrig, he said over the last 2 years that despite facing one of the cruelest diseases, he was one of the luckiest people on the face of the earth. We were the lucky ones to have known this incredible man, even if for only a few years. In this crazy life, a lot of people say they care, but the ones who truly mean it shine with a different kind of light. David, you made Sebago a far better place and all of us better people. We will always remember our conversations, the lessons that you taught us, and the example you set of steadfast, true integrity, incredible courage, unwavering compassion, and heroic dedication. I will forever remember the love you showed not only my children, but all of our children. You were the best of humanity. I often gave you a hard time about the fact that you just kept coming back and told you to go, run, be with your family. But at your celebration of life, your wife Amy shared with me how much you truly love this job. So you fought the good fight for all of us, and you gave it your all for longer than most people would even think. When I learned of your passing and shared the sad news with my own children, I found my oldest son Will in bed later that night clutching the nature journal that you'd given him. That's one small indication of how much you meant to so many people. So we'd like to thank David and share our condolences for the loss that Amy, Sophie, and Bennett have to endure. If we could have a few moments of silence in honor of our former superintendent, it's our small way of saying thank you and honoring someone we care deeply about. Thank you. And I also think it's important that as we say goodbye to someone who meant so much, we'd also like to take a moment to extend a warm welcome to Steve. You've been here before and you came back again, and we know you will lead us well, and you have a shared vision. You've already jumped in with that spirit of community and dedication, and we're all very grateful to have you rejoin Sebago Elementary. Thank you.
I appreciate the opportunity, sincerely.
Thanks, Chris.
Very nice.
Did the best I could.
Did a good job. Okay, do we have any agenda adjustments? Seeing none, I'm looking for a,
Just one second,
What?
please.
Yeah.
Part 8A2, if you could strike that.
strike A2.
Yes,
Okay,
thank you.
sure.
I appreciate that.
Okay. Anything else? Okay. All right, I'm looking for a motion to accept the minutes. Well, actually, before we do that, did anybody have any changes on the minutes for the previous meeting? I did have one thing. On page 2, under principals report, it said on July 5th, the ESY summer school program will begin and will go through June 28th. Is that supposed to be July? Okay, that's what I thought. Okay. Okay. Do you wanna- Okay. Does anybody have anything else?
Note, move to accept the minutes as amended by the chairwoman.
Seconded.
Okay, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Pass. Okay, public comment. We have a huge public tonight. Okay, moving right along, superintendent's report.
Okay, so I've got a few topics just to touch base on. I'd like to just take any opportunity I can with the community to talk about upcoming strategic planning for this year. I'll be putting out some information in the newsletter about that, and also talking about it more frequently here, and try to put some times out that hopefully people can attend. We'll see if we can't figure out some way to do some childcare in the facility. If I can talk to some Sebago high schoolers who are in Lake Region or other districts that would say, yep, we'll come back and help you out that night, that would be great. And we'll see if we can't get a couple of nights to get some people to give us some feedback, so we have that really well-rounded voice when we start pulling the pieces together. Secondly, on the initial entry plan work that I've been doing, I have been working on the budget, trying to figure out the financial aspects and seeing where the 22-23 budget proposals were, so the previous budget, as well as what the actuals were for last year, so I have a sense of where we are for this year. And I've got some information I'll share with you on that. It's okay, so on the 22-23 budget, one of the things that I have discovered is that what the proposed amount was that was approved by the taxpayers and what the actual that was spent, it was overexpended by $121,870. So out of a $4.5 million budget, it was marginally overspent, but the idea is that if it's overspent, you have to make up for that over expenditure. So given the fact that it's a $4.5 million budget and needing to offset 120, almost 122, that doesn't come from markers and crayons. That comes from digging into other areas and figuring out, it comes from the other 82% of our budget, figuring out what we can do without this year. And it also means that as we do that, are we creating any, so we need to be mindful, are we creating any other holes that will need to be covered for by the end of this school year? So just to give some examples of some things that I'm looking at and trying to figure out, trying to make sense, pull it all together and say, how is this one, how is that one, how did some of these occur? Teacher salaries were listed last year as, in the budget, proposed to the citizens as $335,000, and the actual came in at $388,000. 20 of that, so it's a $53,000 difference. So you'd think, well, it's a very small school, it's gonna be pretty easy to track that down. It's not that easy. There's a piece of it that is, there was a situation last year in which the school needed an educational technician to fulfill obligations. The school could not find that role, so a person agreed to come in who was on a teacher salary and was part-time, I think maybe 0.6 or something like that, from, let's say, December through the rest of a point in the year, and that accounted for about $20,000 of overage in that category. So I'm going to continue to work to see if I can go through Sue Tuttle and go through Kathy and John and go through some of the records Del Peavy's going to be looking at to see if we can figure out where some more of these pieces have come from. Because if they're not identified, could they still be there in this budget, in the 23-24? And I like surprises, but not that. So in regular instruction, one of the categories in the budget, you see that was overexpended $124,686. So if we resolve that issue, the budget would not have been overextended. The two key pieces that you see in there for about $71,500 were elementary tuition to other schools and secondary tuition to other schools. And that's not a special education component, that's just straight tuition, which unless we had, so let's say tuition's about $11,500, let's just pick a number, less than $12,000 on average for students. So that means that we had, 6, 7 kids that were unidentified? Like, do we have 6 or 7 kids who moved into town that we don't have a record of, that 61 may have a record of, and so forth? So I'm gonna work with the business manager in 61 and with our business folks here through Royer and try to figure out where those extra names came from or the extra costs. And I had a conversation with the business manager in 61 today, and we're off to a good start. I got some good answers on a couple of things, and I'm looking forward to continuing to work with her. You'll see on the backside under other instruction, I'm just hitting a few examples. It says the school nurse salary. So the school nurse salary in 21-22 was split between ESSER, wait a minute, that year it was under a different category. I don't believe it was under a teacher contract. I think it was under an ed tech contract. And so when it came, thank you, appreciate it. When it came back in as a teacher contract, which is where it is in any other school system, really, half of it was paid for out of ESSER and half was paid out of the local fund. So the money for the position, when ESSER funds were no longer used, I can't see that they were booked it was booked to cover that other half. So that might be the situation, so now I need to look to see how are we covering the other half in this budget. Chris also volunteered to take a pay cut. Thank you, Chris, we appreciate it. No. Okay. Gas and diesel, that was underbooked by 72%. So what that says to me is it was likely, we didn't have a lock-in back in like April or May of '22, before the school year. So I need to do some work with Kathy and with whomever does our gas and diesel.
The town of Sebago
It's
Public
the
Works.
town.
That's right, it is the town. So I need to see what may have occurred there from the town. Thank you for reminding me of that.
You're welcome.
So, I can understand some bus driver overage, I can understand some increases in gasoline and diesel. I can understand some increases in some contracted services like a speech and language it's based on numbers of kids. Facilities in maintenance, another cost center. There was, the school building electricity was under budgeted by $7,400, and the oil was under budgeted by close to 11,000. So all in all, to take care of the electric and oil needs of this facility, it's off by 18,000. So we got to figure out a little on some different categories, which is good because I'm not wearing sleeves today, but normally I'll roll my sleeves up and tackle these things and see if we can figure out what's going on. And as we discover things, we'll make sure to keep you in the loop.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So something else on the update from the initial entry plan is that I was looking at the 6 through 12 students that we tuitions right now to the Lake Region side of it, and I noticed that it's a very almost a flat pattern. It's 12 from 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th. It's 12 students, 11, 12, 11, 12, and then we've got a bulge of 15. And at the senior year, we've got a drop of down to 8 students. And then I'm not sure about students who may be in special education that have the opportunity to go to school through age 22. I haven't got that 5-year cohort, for instance, in place yet, but I'm still working on that. I've had the opportunity to do meet and greets with several representatives of the town and with several of you folks. So that's very informative information to help me pull things together as well. Demographics, I'm starting to work on some of the finer information pieces on the demographics besides who's in what grade and those kinds of things. So I'm getting there. It's going to take a little bit. School goals. So John LaPerriere, Principal LaPerriere, Special Education Director Del Peavy, and I, we were looking at some topics of things that what do we already know what do we already know is in play here that we need to continue to address instead of what's the flavor of the day, let's go with this year and that next year. So we already know, for instance, that I call it grade 6 plus. The question. So grade 6 plus is what's the work that's got to be done around that, and what's the time. And you've seen I've already put out information on school revolving renovation fund time frames because it involves facility. I've already looked into the option for energy efficiency through Efficiency Maine. And a couple of other avenues as well. I don't see any opportunity that lines up right now for us. For instance, Efficiency Maine closed its window on May 23rd of 2023. I think May 23rd, something like that, 2023. So it's going to be a while before that comes back around. But my hopes would be to do, and I met with Phil Lowe a couple of times. John and I took a walk with him as well today, and we were talking about the fortunate overbuild of this side of the. They doubled up the trusses in the construction on this side of the facility when it was added, and it happens to be the south-facing side.
Nice.
That would be and the roof is in great condition.
Sure.
That is right for solar arrays. So I'm continuing to look at opportunities to see if we can find somebody to maybe do a dollar for dollar match, or maybe to provide some sorts of zero interest loans besides a main bond bank or something like that, that we can do some partnering with on solar capability. So the grade 6 piece, also the social emotional learning that I believe was the second step was a new program last year that the schools started, or was it already in place?
It's already in place, yeah.
Okay, from the last June's meeting a year ago,
Yeah.
I was thinking it was just happening, so it was already in. Okay. So how are we doing with students and making sure? I enjoy numbers. I do look a lot at student data, but my biggest point is students are not numbers. Students are great little human beings that we interact with on a daily basis. And I think social emotional learning takes a lot of work, and it's every interaction you have with students. So I'm curious to see how that's going. Curriculum instruction and assessment, John has already had some pieces in place, and he might talk some of those today or at another time about some of the professional development work that he has in play. Really very, very clear, logical plans, well-timed to support staff. School safety and security is another topic. Communication, broad communication with the community members. That's why I look forward to interacting with people whenever I get the chance. I thought the car show was great, by the way, at the,
Of course.
one or two I looked for the keys, but can you guess?
Like a Malibu.
Malibu, there you go. Professional development, that's the work that John's involved in. So those are a few of the topics facilities I skipped, which is referred to as operations, I believe. And there's a great document on where the school facility itself stands. And there are some, oh boy, this stuff's got to be addressed, and there are some, that part's not what we thought it would be. So there's some pleasant surprises underneath the envelope, for instance, in the exterior. That's it. But this is static, and it's the work we do with it now. And if we leave it like this, the information in this is aging every day
Yep.
that we don't take action on this. So there needs to be some, in my view, some broad-based conversations with the community about the need to have a facility that allows this school district to stand on its own and to continue to move forward and to present the ideals of the community in a way that also says it's an aesthetically and safe, sound, secure facility that is a centerpiece for the community. I'm not talking about millions and millions and millions of dollars to accomplish something like that, but I think there are things that do need to happen to put the school in the position where, I think that the portable section of it that we're in right now is maybe like 25, 26 years old. So what's the lifespan? I think that's it. I think it's the lifespan, and fortunately, this is the part that we're in is in really good shape. So it's got some years left on it, but it wasn't designed for that. So what's the next step that has to happen?
Right.
Especially in cooperation with the grade 6 plus. How can we accomplish a couple of things and instill even greater pride in the school within the community? So that's the pieces on my entry plan. Sorry that took a bit, and on school goals. I do have an action item that I'll get to under appointments that I had under my superintendent report, but I should move that to action. You already asked if we had changes. I apologize.
Steve, I just had a question. I know familiar with EcoMaine and how they shut down their improvements to, both residential and commercial properties at certain time periods, but
Yeah.
just wondering if we might be able to maybe secure some grant funding or something like that to have the energy audit performed so that we know what we need going forward when it's time to apply for those funds next year.
Mhm.
And if we can't find a grant, perhaps we could do some old school fundraising or something like that.
Yes, I'm very interested in continuing to pursue grant opportunities because I love to be able to say to the community, we brought some skin to the game.
Exactly.
Right.
We'll turn over every stone to find the dollars to demonstrate. I think the need can be demonstrated, and I think the offset of that to taxpayers at whatever level will indicate our level of seriousness and other organizations buy into what we need.
Mhm. Absolutely.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks. John?
Yeah, so great segue from Steve.
John, do you want a seat?
No, I'm fine here.
Oh.
They can hear my voice, and I've stood up there before, it's just awkward.
Tell me about it.
So, Steve mentioned, the aesthetic look of the school. I believe that kids and staff alike present differently in an environment that's comfortable and neat and clean. And so with that being said, facilities, this year we've done some significant changes. We've put plank flooring in grades 4, 5, music, and in the IT room. And Steve also mentioned the surprising shape of this modular. So that this summer when they were tearing up the carpet, I noticed that the subflooring was in great shape, and they had quoted us for subflooring and the installation, which was $11,000. So because the subflooring was in such great shape, they took that off our bill, which allowed.
You took it off there, Bill.
Well,
You said, we don't need that,
We
put it
don't
back
need
on the
it.
truck.
It looked good. And so with that savings, and still a significant savings, we put carpet in the modular to include the social worker's office, and still had a pretty solid chunk of change that would have been spent if we put the subflooring in.
That's great.
We've also, this summer, replaced the pre-K kindergarten classroom toilets. Some significant change for those 2 rooms, but we also saved the installation because Dave and I put them in,
Nice.
so that helped. We painted the cafeteria, and I also connected with the principal of Edward Little High School. They built a new school, and he had tons of cafeteria tables that were 3 years old that they got with ISRA funds. So I went down with a truck and we picked those up. So the cafeteria should be a brighter, happier place for kids this year.
That's great.
John, you're
and
the best. I'm just gonna say it.
Really good.
He's not even halfway
I
done.
know.
We did get other items from Edward Little that you want him, take them, so that helped out. Today, we rented a power washer. Dave power washed the building, so that open house. It's much more appealing and attractive. And then
That's
a couple
about
weeks-
half the building, right?
he got
this
all the
side?
way down to the house.
Okay.
Oh, good.
And then he actually got halfway to that side of the house. And so we're gonna pick a time in September where we can rent it again and go around.
Nice.
And then, 2 weeks ago, I reached out on the Sebago community page. We have teeter-totters in the playground that were falling apart. So I reached out, and we had a lot of bites, people wanting to help.
Oh, nice.
But I reached out to Jay Audette, and he quickly offered to help. And he reached out, he said it to me today, I don't wanna not give credit where credit's due. He reached out to Wing Logging, and Wing Logging donated 6 brand-new planks. And so Jay planed them down, shaped them, bought hardware, and he's installed 2 of them. He treated them with like deck treatment, and he painted the rails. I mean, it's gonna look beautiful out there. He's gonna put 4 more up Thursday, so kids will have 6 really safe splinter-free teeter-totters. And I think we're the only school
Still
within
has
hundreds of miles that have teeter-totters.
Right.
When
And
I
kids-
first walked out here one day with my grandkids, I'm looking around there, teeter-totters.
They're the best.
They are.
Teeter-totters and monkey bars, so.
Yes,
there we go.
yes.
So he's gonna finish up the
Spinning
installation
merry-go-rounds.
Thursday. Great, just, that willingness for the community to step up and say, you know what, I'll do it.
That's
Right.
really
And so
great.
I did
That's
reach
so
out to
nice
Jay and said,
hear.
what can I do?
Mhm.
What do I need to do? And he said, not a thing.
Wow.
And so I like free and not a thing.
That's
So that was good.
wonderful.
So I'm gonna move on to staff and professional development. This year, we're gonna continue our relationship with Reed Dyer Consulting. We're continuing to work on instructional practices, assessments, conferencing with students and whatnot. And the goal with that is we hired a interventionist that's gonna be a part-time coach as well. So the goal is that eventually, the coach can take over the literacy part of that work. So we're still working with Reed Dyer. Over the summer, we had several staff go to a Math for Me. So we're part of a Math for Me project with the state for the next 3 years, and that is professional development provided by the state. They have several visits throughout the year. We did a 2-day training in Hollowell, which the staff seemed to, from the feedback I got, really enjoy and got a lot out of it. And the group that went August 1st and 2nd, well, Chris Bennett and I went July 31st. Administrator and teacher of influence went that day. And then the rest of the staff, which is Chris Bennett, she's the teacher of influence. Jen Elsesser is gonna represent K through 2. Belle Sawyer, our new 4th grade teacher, was representing the 3 through 5. And Jen Lundstrom was there representing special education. So that was part of the summer work that they did. Also, I sent our new interventionist, Amanda McGinnis, to the Jennifer Ceravello coach and literacy specialist PD at UMaine on August 17th. And the good thing about it is, prior to her going, I reached out to Debbie Hogart. She's the head of Maine Literacy Partnerships, and just kind of wanted to get a sense of, could there be a relationship built between Maine Literacy Partnerships and us? And she has given me some information about some possibilities of some grant money coming to us to support that work. So Amanda met with Deb, spent a bunch of time with her at the conference, and she's also invited her to 2 professional developments with coaches that are already part of Maine Literacy Partnership. So she'll punch out for a day in October and a day in January. And then we'll continue those conversations with that group. So some good stuff for staff to do over the summer, besides vacation. And then finally, the starter school bus drivers this year are Ray Dingley, and he's gonna do the lake route. And then Ron Hanscom, that was our backup, he's doing the mountain route. And I reached out to Andy Madera, and he had Tammy Robinson, our van drivers, doing her bus training with Lake Region. And they're gonna she's passed the permit, she's starting the driving and that kind of stuff with them, so she should have her license sometime this year, and will be great, because you always need a backup driver.
Right.
And
That's wonderful.
potentially, we have skiing going on this winter where we might need her.
Right.
The bus routes have been posted. I sent a message out to families so that they can, and those times are just estimates, because we'll figure it out as we go. And then again, the pre-K and kindergarten orientation routes have been posted. We've put messages out to family when they are. They're the 28th from pickup start at 9:30, and we should be done at 10:30. So those pre-Kers and kindergartens that have never been here can kind of get a lay of the land, even though they might be there that night. Also, we have the pre-K and kindergarten soft start, where we have half the kids come one day and half the kids come the next day, and then the 3rd day they all show up. We have had some, and this is good news, we've had some late registrations, so we've had some additional kids coming to school.
Great.
So that's a good thing. And then finally, we have the open house barbecue that will be held on the 28th. Rich, I do need to talk to you about the grills
Sounds
at some
good.
point.
Yep.
And yes, you're going down.
It's on.
I'm just saying, you're going down in flames.
So, and the positive thing is, I did reach out about last year's additional funds, and we gotta figure out where those are, but I
Yeah.
reached out to LePage Bakery, they're gonna donate all the buns and the hamburger and hot
Great.
dog buns. Hannaford, I'm supposed to be picking up a gift card tomorrow, so we are getting some donations.
That's great.
To help support that, and that's it.
That's great.
That's it?
That's it.
Wow.
That's it. Thank you, John.
And,
Thank you.
Herculean effort.
Yeah.
Just like going forward on that, you know, the town of Sebago is very crafty. So if and folks like when you saw that outpouring to help
Yeah.
with the seesaws, folks really want to help. So if teachers do have any needs as to built-ins or anything in the classroom, I just have a feeling that there's so many craftsmen and women here
Yeah.
in town that really want to say, oh, I built this for the school and it's going to be there for a long time. And,
Yeah.
you know, we can tap into that. That'd be great.
Sure.
Well, I do have a current need for I have a beautiful cabinet for the nurse that I haven't been able to find anybody to put on the wall for us.
Oh, yeah.
So that's a
Anytime.
need. That's a need. But, yeah, and it was wonderful to get that. You know, a lot of people sent me private messages on Messenger. I'm like, oh, okay.
That's great.
So
I think
that's
it
good.
does. It speaks to that people want to help, they just don't know how.
Right, that's a
But
good
and it's
point.
tangible, like, oh, I can do this. Like,
Yes.
What about also, what occurred to me too is like to honor the people that did help, maybe at the end of the year have a thank you to
Gratitude.
volunteers or community members or whatever.
Well, like
Yeah.
with Jay,
Good idea.
he'll be on my first, he and I are gonna take a picture when they're all done, and he's gonna be on my first newsletter.
Great.
He and I and the
Nice.
teeter-totters.
That's nice.
love it.
Are you on the teeter-totters?
Well, no,
On the teeter-totters.
we are not.
Let's
And
make
at
sure
the end, I'll
somebody
show you a
doesn't
picture of
get
them, they
off.
really are nice, and
Yeah.
Sue Harmon and Amy were teeter-tottering today.
Nice.
Nice.
Awesome.
John, one of the things that I think is important to note, when people hear about professional development, and they may think, well, geez, we're doing this work with this guy named Reed Dyer, and we've got this work that we're doing in Hollowell and so forth, that's gotta cost money. Yes, it does. And fortunately, John is in the second year of secured professional development funds, correct?
Yeah, and that was actually professional development that David had a connection with, the Alphon grant, which was helpful, but the math for me is a project, so it's free. So all that math professional development doesn't cost us anything. And again, with the Maine Literacy Partnerships, if I can work something there, the bulk of that is gonna be free. So
Nice.
That's
you
great.
just gotta look.
Oh,
You know.
Thank you for listening.
thank you.
Really
Yes.
wonderful.
A lot to be excited about.
Yeah, it
Yes.
is.
Okay, that brings us to action items. Did you say you had something to add to action items?
Yes, I did. You may recall, if you've driven by in the last couple of weeks, that we had a sign out front advertising for halftime custodial assistance. I think that's 4 hours in the evenings.
4 hours in the evening.
And we have a gentleman by the name of Walker Lavoy who is going to be joining us as our part-time custodian.
Former student.
Oh, there
Oh,
you
my
go.
goodness.
Yeah.
Wow.
He's at least 12, right?
He's a sophomore at St. Joe's.
Oh, wow.
And a former
Oh,
student.
it's that young guy.
Yes, that is your
No.
alumni.
Cool. That's great. Wow.
Wow. We don't have to vote on that, do we?
No,
Okay.
no.
right.
Is my background with these kinds of things or experience has been that by statute, boards vote on teacher positions and administrative positions, and then the others, so whether if it's non-teaching or non-administrative, then the superintendent notifies the board that those positions have been filled. Is that in keeping with the practice?
That's
or-
correct.
Okay, great.
Okay. So under action item A, I am looking for a motion for the appointment of Elizabeth Connell as a mentor for Julie Sherman for the 23-24 school year.
So moved.
Seconded. Oh, Wendy's
And
got it.
any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Passes. Okay.
Julie was actually a former coworker of mine at Portland Police Department.
Oh, okay.
Great person to have on board. I'm very happy about that.
Awesome.
Exciting,
Rich,
great.
Which side of the bars was that?
Oh, she was on the administrative side, so the good side.
Thank you.
Good to distinguish.
That's great.
It makes a difference.
Okay, B, comprehensive needs assessment.
So, the comprehensive needs assessment, so that's the Title I piece,
Mhm.
and I saw an update on that on the website.
I did too. Yep.
So if you go to our school website, it's under, I want to say it's under, I thought it was under the board, but maybe it's under the school. If you go to our website and Google comprehensive needs assessment, it talks about our receiving of Title I funds from the state. We receive several, from the federal government, we receive several titles. Title I is about regular education support services for academics, and also can be for students needing social emotional support. So those funds are shared in that comprehensive needs assessment to help decide what's the best use of the funds. It's a federal requirement.
Do we
Anything
need-
else I should share on that?
No?
Yeah, we'll check that out. We'll throw it into the newsletter too, to have a link for that.
Yep.
So,
Do we need to vote on it?
no, it's just an update.
Okay, done.
Is it under action?
It is, it's under action.
Okay.
Okay,
I gotta get my
so-
act together. So the next one is also probably not an action item at this time. It's just it's a work in progress.
Okay,
John has been working on a streamlined version of the emergency operations plan. There's still the original plan that's about 162 pages.
167.
67. And then there's a separate document that's going to be used for staff that's down into the 30s that will actually be the training manual component to that. I also had an opportunity to reach out to, I met with the director, Michael Durkin, of Cumberland County Emergency Management Agency over in Wyndham. And we're going to work on a piece for emergency preparedness training on, we've talked about outreach with our older students and connecting them back to the school. So we're going to work to train some students, a small number, to come back to the school to implement an emergency preparedness program that's for the homes. It's about kids having an emergency go bag in their homes. It's about having practice drills. It's about knowing where your rally point is at your house. It's about, so it's got a lot of good components to it. And students come in, they'll do that with grade 5. Typically they do it with 4. So we could start with a grade 5, see how that goes. I imagine it'll go well. We could move it to grade 4, and then every other year subsequent to that, every year subsequent, we could do a grade 4 piece. So keep that connection going and just continue, most likely using juniors and seniors or collaborating with them because they have transportation. So that could make things a lot easier for us. Once the EOPS is complete, there'll be a letter of concurrence page and a change page that the board will be asked to sign off on. So that requires that Lieutenant Feeney from the Sheriff's Department, Cumberland County Sheriff's, also Chief Cole from the Fire Department, and some other people that are first responders have seen and read and been allowed to provide feedback to our school plan. So once those contacts have been taken care of, you'll see the copy of the letter of concurrence that demonstrates that.
okay. Thank you. Election of Finance Subcommittee and Chair. We've never had a chair.
Oh,
The superintendent's always been
sure then, just members, subcommittee members,
subcommittee member.
does that work?
Sure.
Well, I would nominate Danelle Allen as a member.
Well, thank you. I would nominate Rich Bianculli as another member.
Right back at you.
Oh, is this like having ice cream wars at Richard's?
Very similar. Good analogy.
I'm happy with both nominations.
Yes, me too.
So do we have a motion?
I have so moved.
And seconded.
Okay, any discussion?
Nope.
All in favor?
All right,
Alrighty,
thank you.
another
And,
year, Rich.
Another
And
year.
and we
Thank
do not, E is struck.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, E is struck?
Yes.
Yes, we
Mhm.
did, yes. Because I'll explain, the entire school committee works on policies here. Because we're not big.
Well,
Which is
fierce.
Steve catching up, oh, that's how that goes, okay, got it, got it.
Oh, okay.
Mind if I do a brief reading update on?
Would you please,
those
the
first
policies,
reads?
first reads, yes.
Yes, okay, so let me get the first one, which is IJJ. IJJE is anything that has the code E at the end of it, a separate dash E, is a form. And this is the form, it's the Challenge of Instructional Materials form. So that today is, the first readings are to notify the public that these topics are being dealt with in policy. And second readings are an opportunity for the public, if they have any interest, to come out and speak on any of these topics. That is a required policy by the state of Maine to have this form, and that's new to us. Then secondly, IMB, which is also a new policy to us. It is not required. It is a recommended policy that's called Teaching About Controversial / Sensitive Issues. That will be brought up for future discussion in this same group. JFABD-R, memorize that. That is the Admission of Homeless Students Administrative Procedure. That is a new policy to us. It is a non-required policy. We had a little bit of interesting, just start-off discussion about that to get the ball rolling. Looking forward to see how that goes. JGAA is a new policy. It is not required by the State Department. It is called Assignment of Students to Classes, 5-year-olds. JL is the Student Awareness Policy. And
Student wellness.
what did I say?
Awareness.
Not very.
We want to be aware of their wellness. You're
I
good.
never picked it up, I didn't even hear it. Okay, student wellness policy that we'd like you to be aware of. And the really great thing about this is that we had a triennial assessment done on this for the local wellness policy. And there are 3 categories that, for rating this in about 10 different categories. The 3 ratings are meet, partially meet, and do not meet. And then there's a note section. And on every section of this document, our school department has a meets the standard or meets the requirements. So congratulations to folks who have already worked on that. There are some updates that we're looking for in there. Another policy to share with you that was required. Another policy to share with you is medical marijuana in schools, and that is not a required policy. Medication administration is a required, but the medical marijuana in schools is a newer topic, as you're probably aware, and that is not required, but will be taken under discussion. And the last one to bring to your attention today is KB, which is parent involvement in education. There's already a policy on our website called KBF that talks about parent involvement, and that's part of that comprehensive needs assessment and is a requirement of the federal grants referred to as Title I funds. So it's completely separate. Parent involvement in education, not required policy, new and it's up for discussion. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm looking for a motion for first read.
I move to accept all 7 policies as presented as first readings.
Seconded?
Any discussion? All in favor? Okay. Okay, we don't have anything listed under discussion items for tonight. Items for future agendas. We have the 6th grade or 6th grade plus.
And so,
Um,
when are we planning to meet?
Once we get, once we get in school, I'm gonna put out for a Tuesday in
Okay.
September.
Okay, great.
I also need to do some
That's what
outreach
we
to people
usually
about
talk when
operations,
we come back in
as I
September.
Yeah.
learned this
Yeah.
afternoon,
Yeah.
which is good to know.
And
Okay.
then, just, I know we didn't have it on the agenda item, but Maggie has been working with the Board of Selectmen in regards to forming the subcommittee for the town for the after-school care.
mhm.
So that's being formed. It was advertised. You might have seen it in the local papers, just advertising that those positions are open. So when that closes and the town notifies us who those committee members are, we can share that with everyone. And folks are welcome to join in. Even though the period might close, there's always open space for folks to participate.
Okay.
I had one other thing to add, that it's just the beginning of an idea. I'd mentioned it back when I was first appointed to the board, the committee, about finding a way to create some kind of mentoring opportunity. You and I spoke about this with either Lake Region High School students, St. Joe's pre-education teacher program, undergraduates. But if there was a way we could look for grant money, again, it's the very beginning of a seed of an idea of having a small group of Sebago Elementary students paired with an older mentor, just one afternoon a week. Again, it's pending transportation, grant money for snacks, but trying to help some of our vulnerable kids have a really positive, almost like a Big Brothers Big Sisters kind of program.
And that's a great idea, and I was gonna say, maybe we could get either the PTC or Spice could help with the money for snacks. So we
Absolutely.
wouldn't have to worry about getting a grant, but I think that's a great,
It's just,
Program
I
for
started
everybody.
one when I was in high school,
Yeah.
and it was absolutely wonderful. And
Yeah.
our school is so small, and there's so many resources around us. And another little dream I'm hoping to bring to life is building an outdoor classroom in honor of David.
Yep.
It'll require talking with the landowner next door. Things were just kind of messy last year with everything, but now I'd like to really kind of see that come to fruition.
It would require talking to the neighbor next door.
The thought is to put it in
very
the
nice.
woods, just on the other side of the fence, and they own that land.
I see.
We've heard they're really receptive to the idea of letting the school
Yeah.
continue, but there's just some logistics to
Mhm.
figure out. And if
Yeah.
that's not an appropriate place, I'm sure we could find somewhere
Yeah.
else, but some kind of lasting kind of,
Oh, and he asked about
we talked about.
opportunities to help out.
Yeah, and again, I think like Rich said, I think that's one of those things that people would help.
Yeah,
People would
sure.
wanna help.
Yeah.
absolutely, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
So we could work on a memorandum of understanding with a community member on that,
Mhm.
and also that has an insurance rider for that person.
Yep.
Mhm.
Property.
Okay. Wow.
Busy.
Yeah.
Exciting stuff. Okay, 13, information items, future meetings. Did everybody get this list for the
handy.
year?
Yeah.
Okay, John reached out and asked, but there are a couple of dates we need to look at. December, our normal meeting would fall on the 26th, which is the day after Christmas, and I kind of thought we didn't want to
Boxing
meet
Day.
then.
It's not the day after
Boxing
Christmas,
Day.
it's
So,
Boxing Day. said the
Boxing Day,
Canadian
yes.
friends.
So the 19th, the Tuesday
Yeah.
before, does that work for everybody?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
May, it could work or not. It's the 28th, which is the day after Memorial Day. Is everybody going to be around?
No,
No?
no,
So how about if we switch it to the 21st?
sounds great.
Sure.
Okay, so we'll do the 21st for May. And in June, and this was brought to my attention by the Cathys, They asked if we could meet earlier in the month because there's a lot of end of year business that needs to get wrapped up.
Oh.
Yeah.
So I'm suggesting the 18th,
Mhm.
which is just the Tuesday before our normal meeting, which would have been the 25th.
So just out of curiosity,
That's
is
okay.
there a requirement that the board, after the public vote on the referendum, that the board within so many days has to certify
Oh.
that?
Yeah, that's true. We have to
Is
certify
it like,
the.
is it like 3 days or 7 days or something? I'll check
After
into
the-
that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's June 1st, wasn't, no, is it June 1st or July 1st?
It would
Should
have to be in
June-
July.
It
Should be
changes
June
Well-
based on the
It does
election.
change.
7 or something like that.
The election's usually earlier in June. Oh,
But it's like so many days after the election is
Yeah.
held to certify.
Right, that's true.
I think it's 7.
But we don't have to,
so we could meet earlier
we
in
don't
June.
necessarily
So
certify
let me,
the-
let me look into that and
Okay.
I'll get back to folks
So,
about it.
so just get back to us on it. You can just shoot us an email. We don't have to vote on these.
No.
So you still have the 18th, it's the same.
Well, it would have been the 25th.
No, that's,
I know, because I'd already sent that
Oh, you s-
I
to,
figured it
oh,
was
so this is
John,
what
so
it
he could
is
put this
now?
out.
Oh, I see, I
Yeah,
see.
so,
it's
but-
not even re-
But we have to decide as a group
Oh, I
which,
see,
which dates
right.
are gonna work.
Okay.
And the ones that came up that might
Mm-hmm.
not were these.
Okay.
It's
Um,
okay, we can do this in committee.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes, we can.
So the 21st may work as far as, well, April 23rd probably might be the date to take out the warrants, to approve the warrants. It depends on how long the town needs to post it according to their charter to be able to
find out.
allow for absentee ballots.
Mhm. Right.
So we'll check on that one too.
Yep.
Okay,
Mhm.
I just didn't want to go the week before because that's school vacation week.
Hmm.
And we have 3 parents of young children on the school committee
Yep.
who may be going someplace, I don't know.
Yep. So-
Yep.
Outside.
So we'll check on the voting dates in the warrant.
Vacation.
Staycation.
All right,
Ah, great.
okay, I am looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second it?
Any discussion? All in favor? It passed. All right.
Okay.
Good job.